Hey Sainers, welcome to Saints TV match review after what was a very mixed emotion sort of game against the Gold Coast Suns, where we got away with the win. We somehow got away with the win. I don't know how exactly we did it. I don't know how the guys worked their way back into that, but I'm just going to jump out and say I want to give full credit to Alan Richardson and the coaching team at halftime, because I think that although the players should take a lot of the credit for the way we turned that game around, I think that the coaching and just the structural changes that they made, I didn't mind Brandon White forward with a few of the contests that he created late in the game, particularly the one holding the ball that really got us the win. But also jumping straight to it, Jack Billings. Can we all just give a like for this video just for Jack Billings? Because that was fucking exactly what we've been looking for from him since we drafted him, really. I mean, he's done it in a lot of games where, a lot of players have had a good game, but in tight games like today, where we needed someone to stand up, we needed someone to take the game with the scruff of the neck and lead, and he did that. I've got the stats here, he had 33 disposals, he had 20 kicks, 13 handballs, he had 3 free kicks, 4. He had 11 tackles based on these stats, although the other stats said 9, but he's had a lot of tackles, so he's getting in and under, and he's kicked 2 goals late in the game when the game's in the balance, one from 55 on one step, and then one which was clutch to seal the win for us, and he's finished with 170 AFL fantasy points, which is the highest. I think that's the highest he's ever had. Ridiculous, absolutely next best for us, who I thought again stood up, and again he's had his fair share of Sandringham games. Luke Dunstan, can we also just give him some credit? I thought Luke Dunstan, from even the first half where we were absolutely shocking, I thought he was our best player, and he kept it up in the second half, and he broke the game open, and there were a few periods in that second half of the game where he got through the middle, and his handballing was on point. It was direct, his kicking was good. Super impressed by him. Rowan Marshall had, I think, a career-high 40 hit-outs in an AFL game. Finished with 19 disposals and 106 AFL points. And Seb Ross had 31 as well, although I think his disposal was, again, just a bit off. Nick Hind, debut. What did you guys think of him? I thought Nick Hind offered a lot. I don't think he got a lot stats-wise. He finished with 7 disposals, which was third least on the ground for us, but I thought that he did the job. I thought there were a few cases where he doesn't get the stat, but he chased a number of players when he didn't have to. He didn't give up. He put on a lot of forward pressure and kept the ball locked in our 50 on other occasions where, it would have just been walked out. And that was the case in the first half. Was Gold Coast were just moving it too fast, too freely out of defence, out of our attack and their defence in the first half, and they kicked goals from it. And we could have dropped our heads, 31 points down away from home. We could have dropped our heads, but they stuck fat and they opened up the game. We played faster. We played riskier. There were so many kicks into the middle of the ground. Josh Battle, naming him out here, but there were a few that he nailed and they were just precise and opened up the game. Gresh did well. He kicked 2. He had 20. He kicked 1 and he had 20. Membry had 17 and kicked 3. And had 10 marks, which was amazing, so good on him. Bruce dropped off a little bit as the game went on, but I thought, it's a win that's super important. I thought David Armitage did a good job coming into the team. What did he finish with? He finished with 16 and had 2 and had no tackles, but he led. He had 2 tackles. He did his best, and I thought that he covered the ground well, and he did a few things that were like, well, that's why we don't want him in the team. But then he did a few things where he just did some really quick hands or got in and under and created space for his teammates. And that's the reason why we drafted him and the reason why we like playing him. And that's when he's at his best. And I thought he did well. Blake Acres had 22. Dean Kent, special mention to Dean Kent. He had 20 disposals, kicked 2 goals, 1. Laid 2 tackles, or 1 tackle, 7 marks. And I thought in that third quarter where the game was getting away from us, he stood up and brought us back into the game. Parker just frenetic again. Hunter Clark had 18, which I thought was pretty good. Mackenzie 10. Nunes had 17. and Savage I think was next best at 18. But overall, like, massive game of two halves when you look at it. Gold Coast they just did exactly what they wanted to do in that first half, where they just flooded our forward line, and then they flooded their forward line when we were kicking out, and we couldn't get past halfway when we were kicking out from a point. They seemed to just lock the ball in, and they kicked a lot of crummy sort of goals. There weren't a lot of lead-up marking goals. A lot of them were just kind of snaps. They bounced around. They kind of just snuck in, similar to that Sexton goal at the end where they got close to hitting the front. But it's an important win. I mean, it didn't matter how it happened. We needed to get the win. That's what I said in my previews, that we just needed it. We go to 6-6 now, and we climb to 11th. I think we've got the Lions at Marvel Stadium next week, and that has become now an absolutely monster game, where I think they're 7 wins and 6 losses or something, 7 wins and 5 losses, and we're 6-6, and we can go to 7-6 and bring them down to 7-6, and that's absolutely huge. If we can bring in players, I think Sandy played today as well. I don't know what their result was or how they went, but Max King is likely to possibly debut. And if he's anything like how Ben King looked in that first half today, Ben King looked very good in that first half before getting tired. But geez, he looks a player. And if Max is that and better, geez, we're in for a good haul here. We just don't want to rush him in and injure him. And then there's obviously Dan Hanbury, who's looking to come into the team for his debut as a Saint. And then Jimmy Webster and Jake Carlisle, we can't forget, who I think he played for Sandy today as well at centre half back. So, and who was it? Jack Mayo as well, playing for Sandy. So we've got a lot of players for Sandy that look like they're a chance in the next 1 or 2 weeks. But geez, I honestly was considering not even doing a review if we had lost that game, but I think that, geez, that second half saved us, and that saved Richo. I just hate to think of what we would all be commenting and what the AFL world would be commenting if we had lost that game. But again, it just shows the spirit. It shows how much this meant to the players and how much it meant to them that Richo get the win and that we move on and keep at, we're going into round 14 with a chance of still making the top 8 if we win. And that's huge considering the injuries we've had, the sickness in China, just the bad luck we've had. Jack Steele dislocating his knee yesterday in training, or the day before. That's massively unlucky, and we're just coping with this immensely. And I think that if anything, the amount of players we're getting into the team because of these injuries means that we're creating a lot of depth. And I thought Brandon White came in, did a good job. I thought Nick Hind came in and was excellent in his first game. It's just, I think we're building something. Whether Richo's the guy in the future to really utilise it, I don't know. But the important thing is we went away from home and we were 31 points down in the third term early, and we got the win. And remember last season, we won 4.5 games. We've now won 6 games with another 8 or 9 to go. And our draw opens up. We've got Brisbane. We still play North. We play Richmond. We play Carlton again. I don't know if we play Gold Coast again. We play Sydney. Bulldogs. It opens up. So if we can get these players in, get these sort of tight wins that are super important, and morale building, energy boosting, these wins, like they did in round 1 where they're close and it sets you up for a big period. Hopefully it happens again and we win the next 3 or 4, because if we do, we're in the top 8 and finals is not far off. So I'll leave it there, guys. I'm not going to go through the comments because there's so many, but keep them coming and I'll answer them after, and I'll write a response as opposed to answering them here, because the videos then just go for like 35 minutes. But I'm super stoked that we won. I love the look of Hind, as Stuart's just said. I think that Max King comes in next week, and that's, again, very exciting. So get to the game if you can. No excuse not to. We're 6-6, and we need to fill Marvel Stadium against the Brisbane Lions because we want to get that win. They're coming off a bye and a loss to Carlton, and they're going to be angry, and they're in the top 8, and they don't want to lose that spot. But if we want to make it into the top 8, we have to beat teams like Brisbane and bring them out. So this is a step forward after the bye. It's always interesting playing after the bye, because you either think you've gained momentum or you lose any momentum you had prior to the bye. But to be fair, We lost in China terribly. We get the bye, we refresh ourselves, and let's use that second half as the basis for how we want to play for the rest of the season, because that second half is exactly what we want. It's fast, but it's not bombing. I don't think we bombed to the top of the square that often in the second half. We lowered our eyes, got a lot of lead-ups, and we kicked goals from it, and that's exactly how we want to play. I'll leave it there, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Like the video if you're happy that we won. Who cares if it was terrible, as Xavier's just said. We won the fucking game, and it doesn't matter because we're happy that we won, and we go into next week with a chance of making the top 8 if we win. So, huge game, and I'll see you Thursday night for that review. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. Like the video, comment, share it. Go Saints.